an election year guaranteed to divide us.
This is a debacle.
Finally, a second term we can all agree on.
Yes!
Comedy Central's The Daily Show. Mondays with Jon Stewart. Tonight at 11, 10 Central on Comedy Central. And next day on Paramount+.
Today on CityCast Boise, just because you throw that coffee cup or pizza box into the blue bin doesn't mean it will actually be recycled. A while back, I sifted through the bin with former host Emma Arnold. We're resharing that chat today so you can learn how to recycle like a pro. It's Monday, February 12th. I'm Frankie Barnhill, and this is what Boise's talking about.
Hi, Frankie.
Hey, Emma.
I'm glad we're talking about this because ever since it came out in our Hey Boise newsletter, I've been thinking about it. But is it just me or is recycling very confusing in Boise?
Oh gosh, you are not the only one. There are so many people confused. And actually the reason why we're talking about it today and why we've been talking about it in our Hey Boise newsletter is because we've actually gotten a lot of questions from people in our inbox asking us what do I do with this? And can I recycle this? I want to do this right. And what do I do with it? And it's probably not just a Boise issue either. It's definitely a global issue. We'll stick to the Boise stuff, but there is this just mess of a global recycling market that's really confusing and always changing. And that trickles down to little old Boise and how we recycle. So we'll get to some items that are kind of commonly put in the wrong place, and we'll set the record straight. But, we should probably talk about wishful recycling first, though.
Yeah, you in the Hey Boise newsletter, Blake talked about wishful recycling, and I was like, oh no, that's me. I'm doing that. I'm just putting stuff in the bin with a thought and a prayer, hoping for the best. But explain to people who don't know, what is wishful recycling?
Yeah, Blake and I chatted with Peter McCullough. He is the Materials Management Environmental Program Manager at City of Boise. So thanks, Peter, for spending an hour with us answering every single question we had about recycling. And he said, wishful recycling, it really happens when, you just don't know where something goes, but you really want that item to be recycled. You don't want to throw it away because it feels bad to know that things are going into the landfill. You hope that it can be recycled and that it's going somewhere else. But here's the thing. It actually does cause a problem because Western Recycling, they're the people who recycle or actually take our materials when you put them in your blue cart in your alley or whatever. They pick them up and they sort them. They sort them by hand. I have been at Western Recycling and watched the line, and it's amazing. These people, it's like the scene in I Love Lucy with the
with
the chocolates going down but they're even faster, and they're sorting things by hand and making sure that things go in the right place. And so when you are putting things that shouldn't be in the same line, it slows things down, and it can also gum up their equipment. And if something does sneak in that shouldn't be there, it can be a problem. So you should care. You should care.
Yeah. And then something good to keep in mind. I think a lot of people, I just assumed there's a machine that sorts it if you mess up whatever. But knowing that somebody hand picks that trash out of there and that it can wreck the whole thing is very good to know. Does that mean we're not very good at recycling, but we have good intentions? Is that what that means?
Right. Well, according to Peter McCullough again, he actually said that we're doing pretty well. He calls it's the contamination rate, meaning how much stuff that goes into one bin that shouldn't be there. He said, though, actually our contamination rate is 10, 11%, which he compared it to Portland, which has one of the lowest contamination rates in the country at 9%. So, hey, we're actually doing pretty well compared to other cities. Of course, it would be cool to be at 0, right?
Yeah, let's beat Portland, Boise. Come on, we can get down to 8%.
Shipping can make or break a sale, so optimize how you ship your orders with ShipStation. They make it easy to automate and manage orders no matter how big your business grows. And they might even be able to help reduce shipping and warehouse costs. So optimize and keep up your momentum for growth with ShipStation. Sign up for your free 60-day trial now at ShipStation.com and use the code POD. That's ShipStation.com with the code POD.
All right, well, let's talk about some specific things that are especially confusing to know where and how to recycle them. What's number one for people that's hard to know?
The folks at the city, they deal with this all the time, and the folks at Western Recycling do too. Those thin, crinkly, squishable water bottles, like the ones that you buy on a big flat from the grocery store, and after you're done drinking it, you can literally squish it with your hand without, and you feel like Hulk or
Oh,
something.
no, you can't recycle those. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
What happens with them is the plastic is so thin. The reason why you can squish them with just one hand without much effort is because the actual plastic, the material, is slightly different than the firmer, like a Dasani water bottle or a Fiji water bottle that you wouldn't be able to do that with. So that's a good indication. Like if you can squish it with your hand without much effort, that needs to go in the trash. It cannot be recycled. And what ends up happening at Western is if it'll get confused with the paper. The machine sorting it will think it's paper because it's so thin. So that's probably number one.
And that's too bad because I feel like for a lot of people, those are very convenient. But I guess, once again, folks, you cannot recycle those. So we got to switch to reusable water bottles because that's terrible. What else?
Yes. So I would say the next thing that folks need to know is basically any bottle. I already mentioned it, but bottles that are marked number one, plastic bottles that are marked number one. So like a Dasani, a Fiji, but then also like a Coke bottle or something like that. Those can be recycled if they are marked number one, and they can go in the blue carts. And that's a good thing. Also things like a plastic peanut butter jar, as long as it has a number one on the bottom, which most of them would.
Do we need to wash those out?
Oh my gosh, great question.
I want you to say no so bad right now.
Okay, so the overarching thing with washing out is, again, because there is this human element and things get stuck in other things because it all gets mixed together. You know, you've got like paper and cans and plastic in one bin in the blue carts. You just want to be sure that there's not so much material in there that stuff is going to get stuck to it. So for a peanut butter jar, the city says, give it to your dog, let him lick it out a little bit, and then don't stress about it too much. You don't need to necessarily run it through the dishwasher or scrub it. Do not do that because then you're wasting water. But like if you have a soup can that there's still a lot of soup in it, like rinse it out. But for a normal like can or something like that, like a soda can, a pop can, you don't need to rinse that out. It's fine.
Okay, good to know. What about coffee cups? Like, you know, I always feel kind of vaguely guilty when I go get a coffee, but do I need to? Can I recycle those?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I hate to break it to you.
no.
But okay, so you think you're getting a hot coffee from your favorite local coffee shop and you think, oh, this is paper. This is fine. I can put it in the paper recycling. Nope, because actually those are made, they have a little bit of plastic, a little bit of wax on them. And the
Okay.
overall rule with recycling is if there's a material that's mixed in with another material, like a paper plastic combo, can't do anything with that. It's got to go in the trash. So also good reason to bring your mug to the coffee shop or stay there and drink your coffee if you want to reduce how much you're bringing home and how much you're putting in the landfill. Good to be aware of that. And similarly, Evelyn, our producer, loves iced coffee. Also, those iced coffee containers that are plastic and are fully plastic. However, they're made of a plastic that cannot be recycled in Boise, which is also very annoying. So those go in the trash as well. So yeah, if your goal is to reduce how much you put in the landfill, just be mindful of those things. And you know, don't beat yourself up too much because recycling is so complicated and it's hard for a reason. There are companies that have pushed plastic for years in this country, and they put the onus on personal people like us to make the right decision, quote unquote, to recycle. But there literally is not a market for that kind of plastic.
What about, house full of teenagers? We have tons of these. I've been recycling them. Pizza boxes?
Okay, so if you get a pizza from Americana Pizza, one of my favorite local pizza shops, for example.
The best.
The best. Had one last night. So that is fully cardboard. However, if it's really greasy on the bottom, Peter with the city also actually said, you can rip it in half. So let's say the top of the pizza box didn't get greasy at all. You can recycle that. So, like cut it up, rip it in half, put that in the recycling for cardboard. But the bottom that got greasy or has cheese on it or whatever, put that in the trash because there's no way to like separate out the grease in the cardboard. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, so part 2, if your teenagers get frozen pizzas from Winco and they enjoy those boxes, they actually, in order to keep the box frozen and not like freezer burn the pizzas completely, the companies that produce those put a little bit of waxy plastic on that cardboard. So it's not normal cardboard and it needs to go in the trash.
Just like the coffee cups. Okay, got it.
Exactly. Yep.
So lots of things actually have to go in the landfill, but what can be recycled? What can I put in my blue cart?
Yes. So I'll say it again. So number 1, plastics that are like bottles and detergent, empty detergent bottles, those can go in. Any cans, beer cans, steel soup cans, like I said, rinse out if there's a lot of stuff in there, but they don't need to be perfect. And then for paper, newspapers, magazines, flattened cardboard, all those things, of course, and mail, and a lot of other stuff can go in. And there's a guide. The city of Boise has a great website called Curb at Boise with lots of references, cards that really go through all the different things that can be recycled. And we'll link to those in the show notes.
What about the orange bag program?
Oh, yeah.
I remember that was a thing. I don't even know if that's still going on. Is it?
It wasn't ever a city-operated program. It was a partnership with the city and Hefty Orange Bags, one of the large corporations that uses plastic and pushes plastic on consumers. They wanted to, have some kind of environmental initiative that would basically turn plastic that is very hard to recycle, that has no other use, and turn it into something, at least to have a second use. Although technically it's not recycling, it's like a different process because recycling means that, that material will be able to be that material again. Like a soda can becomes another soda can. This isn't the same thing, but it turns into another material. Right now, it's being turned into concrete or like a mixture that creates concrete.
Oh.
But the problem is they have to find a company. Hefty finds a company that is willing to do something with this material and make it have a second use for it, which is very hard because there's just a lot of mechanics behind it and chemical engineers working on this and all that. So yes, the short answer is the program is still going. You can buy Hefty orange bags, which are the things you need to package everything up in at like Albertsons and different grocery stores around town. There's a link on Curb at Boise around the information about what can go in those. And that's where some stuff that you're like, I don't want to throw this away. Some stuff can go in the Hefty orange bag if you want to participate in that program.
Okay, good to know.
So yeah, some things like if you have a yogurt container, for example, you can clean that out and put it in the Hefty orange bag. Plastic wrappers for like granola bars and some other things like that can go in there.
So this makes me think about our landfill. How full is it? Like, should we be worried?
Right. Because it feels like we're talking about a lot of things that need to go in the trash. So it is interesting. According to the city, Ada County operates the landfill. So I was talking to a city person and he was like, I'm pretty sure that the last estimate was something like we have about 50 years left at the current rate of our landfill.
Oh man, that's not actually that much though. Like
it doesn't feel like that much,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I mean, 50 years will go by quickly, especially given growth and everything, and who knows. So that's, that's a challenge that the next generation is going to have to figure out, or our generation needs to plan for them to figure out, because siting a new landfill, nobody wants a landfill in their backyard. So with growth, like where will that be? How will that work? That's a challenge for the future. So at the same time, and for now, what we can do now is try to reduce how much goes in there. And, it's kind of interesting because the word that they use is diversion rate, meaning how much material is being diverted from the landfill and going to another use like recycling. And this is pretty good. We have a 40% diversion rate, meaning 60% goes to trash. Of course, we'd like to see that go down, but 40% is going to some other use and not going to the landfill.
And like you're talking like compost? Is that like the other use?
Right. Great question. Okay. So of that 40% that's not going to the landfill, 10% is going to recyclable materials. So is going to Western. That's the number one plastics, and then the cans and the paper. That's 10%. And then 30% is going to compost.
That's
So,
great.
yeah, our compost program, which hasn't been around for very long, apparently is very successful and people are using it and it's adding up. This is by tonnage is how they calculate that. So 30% of the total tons of material that goes out of people's homes residentially is being used for compost.
And that program, we'll have to do a whole separate episode on the compost program because I love it because
we do.
You can just drive a truck down to, they have piles all over the city where they put the cooked compost, and you can load, we've done it a couple of times, load up the back of the truck, bring it to the house, put it on your garden beds, around your trees. It's so easy. Well, thank you, Frankie. I feel way more informed on recycling now, and turns out I need to be paying a lot more attention.
Well, you'll print off a couple of these guides from the city, put them up on your refrigerator, and you'll be set, Emma.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Frankie.
Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to CityCast Boise. For more local intel, be sure to subscribe to our free Hey Boise newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with a conversation with the director of the Boise Library. See you then.